The Baron sold her, but the man gave her a new home, a new sword, and a new purpose. Beginning. The iron gates of Baron Helver's estate groaned open with a rusted shriek, letting in the biting wind of the frontier plains. Soldiers in tarnished armor lined the courtyard, their spears tipped not with steel, but with jagged plasma lances that crackled faintly in the night. At the center of it all, chained like a war trophy, knelt Kilira. Her crimson hair spilled across her face, but her back was straight, her eyes locked forward, unbroken. She had once been a captain in the Starwood Legions, a warrior bred and trained on the orbital academies circling Terra Nova. She had led fleets, slain pirates, and fought in a rebellion that had shaken the outer colonies. But defeat came swiftly, betrayal sharper still. She was captured in battle, paraded through towns as a prize, and finally dragged before Baron Helvar. Helvar had no use for soldiers except as commodities. His estate doubled as a market for broken men and women. "She's too dangerous to keep," one guard muttered, but the Baron only laughed. "Dangerous sells better than obedient," Helvar replied, tugging Kilira's chain so that her head jerked upward. "A woman of her skill will fetch a fortune. A nobleman might want her for protection. A syndicate might use her as an enforcer. Perhaps a warlord will enjoy breaking her spirit." Kilira spat his boots, and Helver's palm cracked across her face. Still, she didn't bow her head. She refused. That night, under the glow of bioluminescent lanterns, buyers gathered in the estate courtyard. Helver's booming voice announced each sale, calling out the names, deeds, and crimes of the enslaved. And then, finally, it was Kilira's turn. "Behold," the Baron declared, "the Crimson Sword of the Legions. Once a commander, now a slave. Strength unmatched, spirit unbroken, yet malleable for the right master." Men shouted bids, their voices like carrion birds over a battlefield. Syndicate lieutenants raised fingers, mercenary captains called numbers, and a duke's emissary gestured casually as though buying a horse. Kilira's stomach turned. Then a new voice cut through the din calm. Steady, unexpected, 50,000 credits. The courtyard fell silent. All heads turned. At the edge of the crowd stood a man dressed not in silk or armor, but in a simple traveler's coat, dusted from long roads. His beard was streaked with gray, his shoulders broad but weary. He carried no crest, no emblem of power. His eyes, however, held the weight of someone who had seen too much. Helvar sneered. "And who are you, drifter? You think you can match dukes and syndicates?" The man reached into his coat and drew out a credit chit, glimmering faintly. "It's clean. Verified. 50,000. Take it, or let the bidding die with your pride." Helvar hesitated. The crowd murmured. Finally, greed won. He snapped his fingers, and the deal was struck. Kilira was unchained, shoved toward the stranger. She half expected another cruel master, another leash. But instead, the man draped his cloak around her shoulders. It was warm, heavy, human. "My name is Eric," he said softly. "You're free now. Middle. Freedom." The word felt like a trick. For days, Kilira traveled with Eric in silence, waiting for the inevitable betrayal. He gave her food, water, shelter in his modest homestead that overlooked the silver plains. Yet he asked nothing of her, no labor, no servitude. She prowled the house at night, half expecting to find chains hidden beneath the floorboards. But all she found were books, tools, and weapons long unused. Finally, she demanded answers. "Why buy me?" she snapped, cornering him as he repaired a roof panel. "Why waste 50,000 credits on a soldier no one wants? Will you gain?" Eric looked at her, then back at the sky. "I didn't buy you. I freed you. As for the credits, they were all I had. Money is replaceable. People aren't." Kilira had no reply. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, her suspicions softened into curiosity. She learned that Eric was once a soldier too, a commander during the war collapse. Unlike her, he had chosen exile, walking away after the bloodshed broke him. He had settled here, far from politics, far from power. "You remind me of who I was," he admitted one evening by the fire. "But you still have a fight left in you." "I don't." "Not anymore." Kilira clenched her fists. "What good is freedom when there's nothing left to fight for? The galaxy eats itself. Baron Helvar thrives. The legions burn. I'm just drifting." Eric studied her in silence. Then he stood and disappeared into his armory. When he returned, he carried a blade, Not just any blade. A plasma-forged sword, its edge humming faintly, light rippling like liquid fire. He held it out to her. I forged this long ago, when I still believed in causes. I couldn't wield it anymore. But you can. Kilira's breath caught. Her hands trembled as she grasped the hilt. The sword responded instantly, the hum deepening, its glow wrapping around her like an embrace. For the first time since her capture, she felt whole. Eric met her eyes. This isn't just a weapon. It's a choice. You can stay here, find peace, or you can fight again, with a clearer purpose than revenge. The galaxy still need protectors, even if the legions have fallen. Kilira felt a storm rising inside her. Rage, hope, and something new, something dangerous. Belief. From that night onward, she trained. Every morning she sparred with a sword until her muscles screamed. Every evening Eric taught her tactics, patience, restraint. She relearned discipline, not for conquest, but for protection. One dawn, scouts arrived at the homestead, ragged and desperate. A nearby settlement had been raided. Baron Helver's men again. They had taken children, burned fields, left families to starve. Kilira stood, sword strapped across her back. Eric shook his head gently. If you go to war again, there may be no return, no peace. She smiled grimly. Then let there be war, for those who cannot fight it. Ending. Kilira rode across the plains with the fury of a storm. Alone, she descended on Helver's marauders, her sword blazing like a shard of lightning. Plasma arcs tore through armor, flames lit the night sky, and the raiders scattered in terror. Word spread quickly. The Crimson Sword had returned. But she didn't stop there. She led survivors, taught them to defend themselves, forged militias where fear had reigned. Soon, outposts across the frontier carried her mark, not as conquerors, but as guardians. Villages once preyed upon stood tall, defended by their own, guided by her discipline. Helvar fumed. His profits dwindled, his reach weakened. He set traps, hired assassins, and unleashed mercenary bands. Yet each time, Kilira cut through them with her blade, not alone, but with allies who had once been slaves, farmers, and broken wanderers. At last, Helvar himself rode to face her, flanked by armored knights. His voice thundered across the field. You think one woman can undo me? I own this land. I own the people. Kilira stepped forward, fire licking from her blade. You own nothing. Not anymore. The battle was brutal, but Kilira fought not with vengeance, but with purpose. Her strikes were precise, her movements guided not by rage, but by clarity. One by one, Helver's knights fell. At last, the Baron stood alone, trembling. Kilira pressed the blade to his throat. For every chain you forged, I give freedom. And she ended him. When the dust settled, Kilira returned to Eric's homestead. She found him waiting on the porch, old eyes weary but proud. You chose war, he said softly. No, Kilira replied, lowering her blade. I chose purpose. Eric smiled faintly. Then the galaxy may yet have hope. In the days that followed, Kilira didn't just wield her sword. She carried it as a symbol, a beacon. Wherever she went, others joined her, not as soldiers of an empire, not as mercenaries of coin, but as guardians of forgotten. The Baron had sold her as property. Eric had given her shelter, a weapon, and a path. But what mattered most was what she discovered herself. A reason to fight that was greater than victory. And so the Crimson Sword lived again, not as a weapon of war, but as a protector of the powerless. A human reborn, no longer just a soldier, but a purpose in flesh and flame.